Monday. I love Mondays because it is the beginning of the week, and I decided long ago to ixnay on the Mondays being a horrible thing, because I'll tell you what, this business has proven that Mondays are a beautiful thing, because as those of you that are living with some leverage income, and maybe you fired one of your boss, maybe you still got a job or two, or maybe you're just starting, or maybe you are like me, just free. So Mondays are awesome. I love Mondays. um, I just want to, before I introduce our guest, I want to do a couple housekeeping, and forgive me for driving, but I got a little green light to go for a quick surf, and I'm doing that. But gosh, Cancun, I can't say enough good things about it. I'll be honest, before we went, I was a little nervous because it was a lot of money for a lot of us to get all the way there in the hotel room. And, a lot of us went. We had a pretty big team representing there. I got my Tropical Biohacker sweater there. And man, I can't say enough good things. Eric Worre, the volleyball tournament that we made it to the finals. Thank you very much. The camaraderie that we got to have, not only as a team, but also with all the different elites and different people in our company, the corporate staff. We had an amazing, amazing meeting up in Sam Flake's suite that he was gifted by qualifying him and his family to go all expense paid, free trip. It was just really special. I don't really know how to put it in any other words than that. They treated us like royalty. From everything from when we showed up to the farewell dinner and the fireworks. It was incredible. It was really incredible. And I'll share one thing that Eric Worre talked about that really got my attention. And for those of you that have just joined our team, this may be a little foreign to you, but once you're in this a little while, you'll remember me talking about this because it's very, very powerful. And what he said was that he challenged us basically to go out and build another leg. Basically you sign someone up and that becomes a leg, who they sign up and they sign up and they sign up. He said, I want to challenge you to go out and rebuild a leg that's as big as your biggest leg. So for me, that looks crazy because I have a giant leg that does about right around 180 to 200,000. That's my biggest leg. And to go out and rebuild that sounds like a lot of work, but I'll tell you what, when I started thinking about all the new people that I have signed in lately, and I thought about their story and their why and what this business is going to do for them, I really got, honestly, I got goosebumps. I got excited. I got butterflies in my stomach, because it's not about building a leg. It's about helping others out of their situation, out of the mud. So when you're thinking about signing people up and, oh, I wish my business would grow more, or maybe, just you're in the same boat as me and you're thinking, gosh, wow, I have to build another leg that does 50K or whatever. I want you to take all those numbers, and I want you to really think about finding the people that are like me. We're on their knees praying for a change. We're begging for something to work out in their life because they were sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I know you know those people. So I want you to think of them instead of thinking about, how am I going to make this money? How am I going to, get these people signed up and all of that? I want you to really think about the other people that are on the other side. Also, I'm still, it's so funny, after 7 years, how many times do I say when I'm doing a training? It's unbelievable. I know some of you used to count them. I've already probably said 20, but that's just goes to show that anyone can do this business. Anyways, wanted to say one more thing. Fridays, don't forget, opportunity video that I do every morning at 8:30 a.m. It's a 20-minute, short and sweet. I'm getting really good at sharing screens and making that happen. That can be a great impetus for you to invite people to make this about them and not about you. This is one of those things, everybody, that can change people's life drastically. And our guest tonight, Pro 7 Michael Huey, I actually don't know him very well, but I reached out to him because of things that I've heard from other people in the elites about what a hard worker he is, and just that he's an awesome guy, husband, built a few different businesses from the ground up, and into fitness, into health. And one thing I know about elites is we all know what it takes. We have work ethic. We care about others. We are selfless with our time and our energy because we know that by raising other people up, you then are raised up. And it's a powerful, powerful way to do business. Very powerful. So Michael Huey, I asked him to share a little bit. I wanted him to touch on what it took him to get to the elite ranks. It's different for everyone, but a lot of similarities, as you see. We have a tradition going right now, Michael, where we are trying to have an elite or a corporate big dog on every single week, and we've been doing really well. So 2020 has raised out to be great with that, and we're just so thankful that you're hopping on. We really, really appreciate it. And we're excited to hear from you. So I'm going to pull over and get my pen and paper out so I can take some notes. But thank you so much, Michael Huey, for jumping on.
Awesome. Can you hear me okay, Daisy?
Perfect. Perfect.
Awesome.
Wow. Nice microphone. You are like, wow.
Yeah. This is what you do when you step your game up, right? Like you, it's really funny. I feel like I want to share this story and thank you for giving me the opportunity because, I've understood that too about saying, because I just started my own podcast. And so I'm trying not to say at all on my podcast. And it's really hard. Like when I go back, and so I record them so I can go back and like listen to them and see if I'm saying that right. And so it's okay. Like you said, anybody can say right. And so if we can say then you guys can all do this business. And how many of you feel encouraged today? Like how many of you would be okay if I encouraged you even more today that as you go through this opportunity, you can actually see yourself becoming that person or that rank that you were called to become, right? So there's always this sharpening, encouraging, sharpening and encouraging. So what I want to do is I just want to share a couple things today with you guys that I think will help you do what my wife and I did in 2019 going into 2020. I did exactly what Daisy just said. I signed up a ton of people and I realized that not everybody was a leader. So I went out and created a whole new group. And you guys know we had the influencer program. I'm going to talk about that at the end of this call. And I believe you are looking for influencers like Daisy. Like I had Daisy on my call a couple of weeks ago, and we get about the same number of people you guys get on, which I think is great, anywhere from 25 to 35 to 40 people. That is a really good number. So you guys should applaud yourself for on a Monday. I know some of you are all over the country and in Hawaii and different places, and it's different times. Like it's 8 p.m. here for us. Daisy's going surfing. Like really? Like that's awesome, right? So how many of you like wish you were going surfing if you knew how to surf, right? That's the biggest thing. Some of us, I like to golf. My wife and I just recently moved from Clearwater, Florida to a little town called Claremont Groveland area over in the middle of Florida towards Orlando, right? And I feel like I need to share this. It was really funny. I've never missed an event until Cancun. And I'll just tell you why I missed it. I'm going to tell you how, I'm not going to impose my faith on you, but most of you guys can see that I'm a man of God. And I believe that everything happens for a reason, right? I believe that we were all here for a reason and for a purpose. But my house sold 2 weeks earlier and I had to move right in the middle of Cancun. So how many of you know that wasn't happening? You're not moving from one space to a double-sized house and going on a 5-day trip in the middle of it, right? Just not happening. So you know who I sold my tickets to? I sold my tickets to Julie Mai, which how awesome is that with everything that has gone on in Julie's life, that Lisa felt like we got to bless her with the opportunity to take our spot, right? And so I know that some of you guys who went was awesome, but I want to share just a couple things with you guys in the thought process that you can leave here tonight and go and implement these things. And they're going to be duplicatable of what Daisy's taught. I'm not going to teach you anything that you don't already know, but how many people know that you can hear something from somebody else that you've heard over and over and it really click, right? Like somebody says it different. I have been able to go out and teach Life Vantage Academy and Premier School before that. And I've been able to build relationships with some of the most amazing people in this company. And that's why I feel like most of you guys don't know my story. I've been in the fitness and nutrition industry for 27 years. This is my company, Heatfluence Now. I do online coaching. I actually coach a lot of LifeVantage distributors in their health relationships and in their business. But here's what I want to share with you guys. I think it's our system, and this is our system from day one. And here's what it says. And I learned this from Tyler and Blue and Marcel from day one of getting in this business. Okay. And it's really 5 real simple things. It's number 1, you do 15 presentations or more. And guess how many of you know that you're, by raise of hands, if those of you that have your cameras on, and if you don't have your cameras on, I would tell you to turn it on, because it lets me and Daisy and everybody else know that you're paying attention. Like Daisy pulled over to take notes and pay attention, right? Like in my podcasts, I take notes while the people are talking, because why? I want to go and implement them. I'll just tell you guys this, whether you guys learn tonight or not, guess who's somebody that's going to learn tonight? Me. Because usually the person that's teaching learns the most, right? I had Daisy on the other day, as I said before in our call, and everybody learned. But I can just bet you that Daisy learned some stuff about herself that she took away after she teaches other people. The person usually in front of the room, you guys have always heard, makes the most money. I always say they learn the most, okay? So let me ask you guys, how many of you have one of these? A paper calendar, okay? Now, I'm going to tell you that this allowed me to enroll 6 new Pro 3s in 2019, okay? How many of you would like to know, well, you guys just said Daisy wants to do it. How many of you would like to enroll 6 new Pro 3s in the next 90 to 120 days, right? Okay, I missed the influencer program by 1 Pro 3 because you had to have 7, right? So you know what I do? Here's where you guys will be able to do these 15 presentations. Those of you that have the time, I'm going to use Daisy as an example. You should do an hour of follow-up and an hour of new exposure every single day in your calendar, non-negotiable. That means you block it out, 1 hour in your calendar and another hour in your calendar for follow-up and new exposure. Maybe that's Facebook. Maybe that's sitting down at a coffee shop. Maybe that's putting somebody on Daisy's webinar on Friday. Guys ever thought about that? That could be part of your time. So here's what you have to do. If you're working this part-time, maybe that's 30 minutes for you, okay? I was working with a Pro 8 in the company this last week, and their business has excelled because they're intentional about their schedule. How many of you would say that you're not super intentional when it comes to your schedule? Okay? How many of you write down in a paper calendar your whole entire week at the start of the week? Now, I know some of you are going to say, but I put it in my phone, okay? It's better if you do it in 2 sources, okay? I booked out my calendar this year with my meal preps, my workouts and everything, and then nobody could schedule a time with me. So why do you think I have a paper calendar? So that my calendar is open and that people can schedule times with me, right? And so I challenge you to do that. And the second thing that you have to do is you have to attend all events. That should be your goal this Friday, as when Daisy does her presentation. You should be you should be on it, but you should be on there with a guest. And then you guys how many of you are signed up to go to convention? That should be your next sign up. If you're not signed up to go to convention, sign up today. Sign up when we get off of here, because people do what you do. Now look at this. The second thing is, this is going to crush you. Always do what you say you're going to do. How many of you struggle in an area of always doing what you say you're going to do? It's okay to struggle in that area, because guess what you can do? You can push the reset button and start over tomorrow, right? And that's, I've learned that from Blue, of all people. Guys, remember what Blue went through with his family? Blue went out after all of that happened and started doing presentations 2 weeks after his girls were paralyzed. How many of you could actually do that if you were committed to something? Go out and do what you say you're going to do. So, and you know when you got to do what you say you're going to do? Especially when you don't want to, especially when you don't feel like it, right? And so the fourth thing that you want to do is always stay in control of your business. Treat it like a business, not like a hobby. If you treat it like a business, you'll get a business return on it as long as you do what you're supposed to do, follow these 5 things, and never quit. Okay? That's what you have to do. It's not if you just don't quit. It's if you do what you say you're going to do and you don't quit, right? Don't pass the torch. Let them take the torch from you. Daisy just said she has leaders now, but she wants to go out and create more leaders. How many of you have went on and watched Jason Kokinzi's LifeVantage monthly video on finding leaders? Daisy just summarized it in 2 minutes, right? You want them to take the torch from you, and you should constantly searching for leaders. Now think about this. So guess what the last one is? Repeat and promote the first 4. Constantly doing those first 4 things. I call it rinsing it out and doing it again. Rinsing it out and doing it again. Going through those processes and doing it again. So I want to share this last little thing with you guys. And I'm actually glad that Rusty said I could share my screen, because I want to share my screen with you guys. I'm going to share something with you guys that I think will radically change your business. And this will probably take me just a couple minutes, but I think that if you guys, Rusty, can you guys see this okay on the screen? Daisy, you guys, can you see it okay? Okay, good. So how many of you know that the difference between persuasion and influence, right? This is a big piece. Now, let me ask you guys a question. How many of you would like 90% of your 3-way phone calls to get the person to make some type of decision? Whether they buy the product, whether they sit down with you for a one-on-one, whether they get in the business. How many of you would like for your percentages to go up on what happens when you're doing a third party? Hopefully all of you, right? So I'm going to tell you that this right here, if you can learn this little bitty piece on your third party calls and on your validations, you will be happy that you followed this. So let me go over this. Now, I'm going to show you guys this really quickly because I believe it's important that you learn this, and I want to value your time because I'm honored that Daisy gave me this time, but I want you guys to really learn today and leave here, because look, if you don't leave here any different, then I didn't do my job. Daisy said she's having elite distributors on all the time. I'm going to teach you a piece from when I teach LifeVantage Academy that every single person wants me to do this little piece at the end, and it's the close. How many of you know that the close in LifeVantage is the hardest thing that you do when it comes to business? Now, here's what I'm going to tell you before I go into this. I had a girl that I sat down beside back when we had Premier School in Tampa, Florida. There was about 300 people in the room, and I sat down beside her, and she said, "Michael, I just have a hard time closing people." Okay? And I said, "Well, did somebody close you?" And she said, "Yeah." She goes, "I've got like 12 girls on the fence about joining this company." She was a Pro 3 at the time. And I said, "Stacy, what's the problem?" She said, "I don't know." I said, "Did you ever ask them to join?" And the conversation got quiet. And she said, "No." I said, "But you told me somebody asked you to join." So guess what she did? She went back and asked those 12 girls if they were ready to get started. And 8 of them got started out of the 12. She went from Pro 3 to Pro 6 in the next 6 months because she started asking people if they were ready to get started. And I've learned that from Sherry Hollenbeck. Sherry wins the contests all the time that LifeVantage has because she knows how to enroll people, you know? And so let's go over this really quick. Okay, so here's what I really like. Think about this when you're thinking about persuasion over influence. Persuasion is forceful. Influence is gravitational. Persuasion works with fear. Influence works with desire, okay? Most people persuade people through fear, which is 90% of what marketers do, okay? And here's what's great. I learned this from one of my wife's friends, Jenny Taylor, who is $1 million earner in the network marketing industry. Now, and guys, just listen to what this says. I want you guys to really understand this. if you don't do this, if you don't buy this. How many of you have heard Gary Vee before, right? Gary Vee has a constant thought process of trying to persuade people to make a decision, right? So I am not a big fan of persuading people, right? Marketers cater to weakness, which allows you not to focus on your strengths, right? You spend your life leading a life of mediocrity. Persuasion is a threat, okay? You must be an influencer. Why do you guys think that they call our program the influencer program? Who are we looking for? Rusty, Polly, Karina, who are we looking for? We're looking for influencers, right? We want how many of you would like to have a Daisy or Julie or Karina or any of those people on your team, right? How many of you know that there's a lot of them out there, right? There's a lot of them out there. I have about 40 leads on my desk that I'm going to go through the next 3 days, right? And so here's the next piece, all right? Influence people to create desire, to be able to ask them to make a decision. Now think about this. Hold on, let me go back to where my button is kind of jumping all over the place. All right, so influence people to create a desire to be able to ask them to make a decision, never pushing them or forcing them. Listen to this, guys. This is important right here. The two biggest emotions for people to join you in business or to buy our products are fear of loss or hope of gain. Which one sounds better to you if you're thinking about that, right? Hope of gain, right? You have to buy this or you're going to lose. How many people want to hear that when somebody's sharing LifeVantage products with you? Not this guy, right? Not you, like Wendy, right? You know that that's not what you want. So you're going to want to invest in this so you can benefit from all the things we've talked about. I use this on every three-way phone call. If I'm going to use Rusty as an example. If I make this about Rusty, what are Rusty's chances of going to the next step? They're super high. If I try to sell him and persuade him, what happens? He stops talking. He stops talking and he begins to think that somebody's trying to sell him something, right? So think about this. Here's trigger words and negative cognitive biases. I learned this from my friend Cole Hatter. Cole has sold over $100 million from stage and real estate courses, and no one has ever felt like he sold him something. Now listen to this. Many people do this, and you should never use these words, fees or costs. Why do you guys think that now we have subscriptions? Because nobody wants to hear an auto ship, right? When people hear auto ship, what do they think? Right? Okay, so think about this. Who wants a fee or a cost to sign up? Nobody. The way to change that is to always call it an investment. Are you ready to invest in your future, Rusty? Are you ready to do the things that we've talked about? Another negative presupposition and positive people is saying, you know what, Rusty? You're the type of person that I want to do business with. Thank you for being transparent with me. Thank you for being honest with me. Everything Daisy has told me about you makes me want to do business with you. Now, who did I make that about? Me or about Rusty? Did you feel like you were trying to be sold, Rusty, or were you being influenced? You were being influenced, right? So here's a negative one. And I didn't write this, Daisy, just because you said this earlier. It just happens to be like this. So how many of you really like to hear this? Aren't you just sick and tired of being sick and tired? How many times do you hear this? That's persuasion and a threat of a presupposition. What does that cater to, Rusty? It caters to fear. It allows you to feel like, oh God, this is just another one of those people telling me something that I don't want to hear, right? And so think about this. Here's a positive presupposition I'll use with everybody on this call tonight. You guys are all winners. Do you know why? Because you sacrificed some time on a Monday to be on a call that's going to inspire you to learn things to do your business. You guys are all the type of people that Daisy and I and other people want to have in our business so that we can do this business together with like-minded people, right? By doing this, what are you doing? You're creating an identity in who you want to do business with. How many of you think that we don't want to do business with everybody? I'm raising my hand. How many of you have signed somebody up that you didn't wish you wouldn't have signed up? I'm raising both of my hands, right? And I can see a lot of people raising their hands. So think about this. Here's what this teaches every single time. It teaches Rusty to believe in himself. Because do you know what the number one and number two things that people are thinking about when you're sharing this information with them? Is it real? And can they do it? Is it real? And can they do it? Do you think what I just showed you solves both of those situations? Yes. You see people nodding their head right now. Why? Because you know what? This teaches people to believe in themselves. Listen to this. There is no reward without risk, Rusty. You and I are the type of people that look opportunity in the face and go right after it. If anybody is that person, Daisy is that person. Look at how traumatic things in her life have been. I've been the same way. My wife and I lost $300,000 last year in a business venture, right? Do you think that I might have a little bit of fear when it comes to certain things? Not anymore, because I've learned that I want to hang around influencers. Now, I'll finish up with this. Influence over persuasion. One of the best books that I've ever seen is a book called, I think I have it here. Let me just make sure. Okay. It's called Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. If you've never read that book, read that book. Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. It's a New York Times best-selling author book, and it is really good, you guys. I'll just tell you this. I've read it 3 times. Okay? So here's what I want you to remember. Guys, I brought up Sherry Hollenbeck. Okay? Sherry has a video on YouTube on closing. Do you guys know that Sherry's mom took her to a network marketing event before LifeVantage, and halfway through the presentation, Sherry pulled her credit card out, and no one came to ask her to join? How many of you wish you had been at that meeting and asked Sherry to join? I would have. And then you know what's funny about that? The roles reversed later when Sherry asked her mom to join her in LifeVantage. Now her and her mom are both elite distributors in LifeVantage. So here's what I will finish with. If you say it with credibility, it's believable. But if you get them to say it, it's gospel. Think about that. You always want the person to repeat things that is encouraging to them. Okay? So let me finish up with that. Now, I'm going to put a little video in the chat comment for you guys that you guys should go and watch. I usually play, but because of time, I'm just gonna leave it at that. But I hope that you guys understand that influencing people to make a decision is the most important thing that you do while building relationships. Here's 3 things that you want to do. You in every conversation that you have, you want people to know you, like you, and trust you. Okay? That's what you want that person to take away when you've had a conversation. It's made a monumental difference. And let me finish with this, and then I'll turn it back over to Daisy. Here's one thing that you never want to do. Nobody needs a boss. Okay? People need a friend. Okay? You can never want this more for people than they want it for themselves. Let me finish with telling you how I got involved. Daniel Bernard followed up with me every Friday for 6 months. And this is encouraging to you guys, okay? Every Friday, okay? And this is what he said. He said, look, I want you to watch a video. I said, no, Daniel, I'm too busy. He said, well, I'm going to ask you again next Friday if you'll watch this video. And so every Friday for 6 months, he asked me this video. And Friday nights are usually dinner and a movie for my wife. We're movie buffs, right? And so on a Friday, I'll remember it like it was yesterday, I got a call from my wife, and she said there's been a change of plans. I said, well, we just talked 15 minutes ago. What happened? She said, we're meeting Daniel and Kathy for dinner. And I went, I'm going to have to watch that video, right? And literally, I get to the restaurant, and Daniel's known me. You guys remember, Daniel's known me for 20 years. He has a nonprofit organization my wife and I love to pour money in because it feeds the homeless in Pinellas County and gives backpacks to kids. It just does a lot for poverty-stricken people and for ministry. And I get to the restaurant, the sushi bar that I love, that him and I had been going to for years. So he tricked me into that. And I look across the table and he has a laptop and headphones set up. I was like, I told you I was going to have to watch that video. But let me tell you something. Little did I know that that was going to be a changing point in my life that has given me time freedom and financial freedom. I sat down, and this is what he did. He did the system. He duplicated the system. He never gave up on me. He just kept loving on me. And here's what he did. He said, I can't answer what you just heard. I looked at my wife and we said, if this is real, what were you think we were thinking about? Is this real and can we do it? And do we have the time? I said, we don't have the time. And Daniel said, hey, look, I'm not going to answer your questions. I've lined up a third-party call for you. I've got my friend, Brandon Cunningham, to put you on the phone with. I was like, who's Brandon Cunningham? Right? I think he was a Pro 5 at the time, you guys. And you guys all know that Brandon's Pro 10 now and on our field advisory board. So with Daisy. And so Brandon answered my questions. And when I got done, guys, this is what we were praying for. We were praying for time freedom. I was working 55 hours a week, making a lot of money. My wife was working as a cardiac nurse. I have a degree in nutrition and fitness and close to 25 plus certifications. And this is how it finished. My wife looked at me and she said, we are not selfish people. We're going to take the product. And we only had 2 products at the time, True Science. My family had skin cancer, so I was using both of the products. And my wife said, we need to do this business. She said, but you're doing it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And this is what Brandon said. I'll never forget it. He closed me on the phone. He said, Mike, I just heard what your wife said. I think you know what you got to do. You need to get off this call with me and sign up. Let Daniel sign me up. And of course, Daniel's over here pulling up his things, getting ready to sign me up, right? Because he knew that was the next step. So I hope that this encouraged you guys to know that if you follow the system and you don't give up on people, the average person signs up on the 5th follow-up. I don't know what's every Friday for 6 months, like 25 weeks or something. Daniel followed up with me. I'm grateful that he never gave up on me and that he just loved me through the process. And he still loved me through the process this day. So I hope that encouraged you guys to know that the system is there. All you have to do is follow it. So Daisy, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Wow.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much. That was so awesome. I love the slides too. Thank you for that. And
Welcome.
you don't give up on the people that you know are going to make a difference. I have a few that I followed up with in the 20s. Sheridan Pate, my veterinarian girl, who has led me some incredible humans. So thank you for all of that. That is why we have the elites on. Look at all the good stuff that we just got. I got 2 pages of notes. Thank you so much. And I appreciate all of you for jumping on. He made a really good point. You guys are on today. You're taking the time, even though it's 30 minutes, you're taking the time to take this seriously. And that's what it takes. This over and over and over and over again. And Polly Grace, hi, Polly Grace. Polly Grace is saying maybe send the video to Daisy and I'll share it. I will do that.
I'll send you the video.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thanks everyone for jumping on. And thanks, Michael. I really appreciate it. You were awesome.
Thank you.
Talk to you
so
soon.
much. You were awesome.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Bless all of you guys. Have a great night. Okay.